To say that this year has been impactful to a lot of people is like saying the Black Plague has been impactful to the people of the 14th century. It's quite the understatement. The term new normal has been thrown around for quite a while now, and 2020 certainly feels like it. Thanks to the virus outbreak going pretty much worldwide, a lot of people's usual habits and behaviors have changed as more people stay indoors, or at least encouraged to stay indoors. This has severely limited the activities and most importantly the jobs that people can do. I don't have to go on any further because most of you aren't recently woken up from a coma. As for me, well, 2020 certainly hasn't changed me that much. Okay, the avatar is, but the real life person me is pretty much the same, with the exception of having an actual degree in computers. Aside from that, I'm still quite the introvert and don't go out a lot, so when everyone is telling me that I should stay inside and lock myself up until all the coast is clear, it's like telling your average weeb to go read a manga or watch an anime. We're gonna do it anyway, and it doesn't really break out our usual habits. I do feel bad for the extroverts who have jobs that require them to go outside and hobbies that require them to go outside, with the exception of those die-hard Disney fanatics whose visit to Disneyland is about as routine as their digestive process. The funny thing about my year-end content is how inconsistent the kind of content I make for it. Sometimes I do it with a general summary. Last year, I did it with my top 10 games of the year, but that's because I have enough cash to buy games that fill up the top 10, and a lot more. This year, however, I'm doing my best to save whatever cash that I have, for reasons that I don't have to explain to you. I have hundreds of games in my backlog anyway, and I spent a lot of my time talking about games in that backlog, as evidenced by my Fate Stay Night video, Katawa Shoujo video, which still holds the record in my longest game review ever, and pretty much every game review of games that are not released this year. I can't do a recap of everything that happened, but there's a lot, and I mean a lot. I can't go over each and every one of them because it would be seriously tiresome and it would take hours. At that point, the recap might as well just turn into an entire freaking stream, and this video is already pretty long. Not only that, but I don't feel like going through every hoopla that we've gone through this year, because there are lots of hooplas that I feel like we should just totally leave in 2020 to be completely buried and never be remembered again. Instead, I'm just gonna address a couple of hooplas that I want to address. The ones that I feel like I should bring up again because they're either very interesting or memorable or worthy of mentioning or addressing in my opinion. There are timestamps down below if you just want to get straight to it, but before that, here's a major announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid I'm gonna share some bad news. The meme stream is going to end. That's right, folks, the meme stream is going to end in one final episode. The final episode of the meme stream is gonna be today at 6 p.m. in New Year's Eve, or at least in Eastern time. That one will also feature my brother, aka BroBen, who reassures us that he won't be sleeping his butt this time again. So why the final episode? Well, it's not the final stream ever. It's just a rebranding. Instead of naming it Meme Stream, I'm gonna call it what it is, the Appabend Stream, or the Appabend Variety Hour, because many things can happen during the stream. And it seems that my brother wants to join the fray as a regular, so it's not just an Appabend stream, it's the Appa Bros Variety Hour, or APB. Hey, APB, Appabend, Appa Bros, or All Points Bulletin, which means a broadcast issued to law enforcement, something that I desperately need after getting through half of the things I get through on stream. Anyway, APB is just a rebranding of the meme stream, same first hour where we talk with the chat, and same stream of hooplas and bad takes, except instead of saying it's a meme stream, it's an APB stream, an Appabend stream, or an Appa Bros stream, however you want to interpret that. There's only one problem with this entire thing, and that is the schedule. Turns out my brother has school and therefore he can't stream in the work days or school days. So unfortunately, in order for us to be able to both star on the stream, we're gonna have a new stream schedule. And since his sleeping schedule is about as consistent as my video upload schedule, we decided to move the stream to be a little bit more late than usual. Saturdays, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So stay tuned for the brand new, or rather the same mold, APB show. The first episode will be on Saturday, January 9th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Eastern time, and it will be held weekly on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Now with all of that out of the way, let's get into the hooplas that I want to talk about to conclude on this year. Again, this isn't really that much of a recap because I feel like there are things that should just be left forgotten in 2020, but there are some things that should be remembered, or things that, in my opinion, worth addressing, especially if it relates to me in some way. Depending on how you look at it, these are either positive things or negative things. Ah, yes, the one comic that started all of this nonsense. This comic tells the story of a girl laughing at the misery of PewDiePie, who at the time got his possessions robbed. The new guy asks, "How would you like it if you got robbed?" The girl doesn't have any rebuttal and just says that they're not gonna be friends anytime soon. That doesn't really answer the question, but it does reveal how much of an unlikable broad this self-insert character is, as she dodges any sorts of challenge in her extremely narrow worldview. That's not the only thing that blew up. Another thing that blew up is the side character New Guy. He was supposed to be in the wrong according to the offer, but he ends up being the person that everyone loves. Loads and loads of fan arts of New Guy pop up and completely overshadow the offer's self-insert character, who treated him like trash. It's an amazing spark of positivity among the bleakest of adversity in social media. Or at least for a while. The New Guy being trending feels like the last spark of whatever positive energy we had in the year, before it eventually fades away and gets stomped into the dirt thanks to reality hitting us harder in the balls. Everyone look at New Guy as a symbol of overlooking all of the negatives to focus on the positives and hope for a much better year. But this is a year where overlooking the negative is so difficult when it overwhelms every part of our life. So I'm going to give a toast for New Guy for at least reminding us on the last spark of optimism of this year. But if there's any consolation to the comic offer, at least PewDiePie doesn't get named the most handsome face of the year. An interesting phenomenon that happened this year is the rise of virtual YouTubers, or VTubers in short. Now, I made my hot take on VTubers in... Actually, I forgot, but it was this year. In retrospect, I feel like that video is more about me gushing about how Perfect Blue is amazing, and not about why I'm not a fan of VTubers. I still agree on both points, especially Perfect Blue being amazing. I'm not a fan of VTubers, and still not a fan of VTubers, and I'm especially not a fan of VTubing in general. But I do recognize their influence to the pop culture as a whole, especially in current year. People find them cute and entertaining, and me talking about how they're all just actors playing a specific role and how they're all faking it just kind of ruins the magic. In the same way how I tell children that Santa Claus isn't real, or that wrestling is fake.
Shut up, bitch!
Not only that it ruins the magic, it's also an inaccurate and incomplete take, because there are also independent VTubers like my friend Miiya, who you can subscribe down below. She, for example, uses a virtual character to represent her actual personality, which is not exactly the same as the HoloLive corporate sponsored actors who mostly play characters that they're being given in. Mostly. There are times where they do break character and being real to the audience, but for the most part, they are playing a character. And that's fine. Let me emphasize once again, that is fine. I'm not saying it's wrong or immoral. It's something that people enjoy, and I just don't. But say what you want about my take, at least I'm not telling people that people who enjoy that stuff are closet kid fiddlers. Yes, VTubers being popular are not without their hooplas. One of the infamous VTubers of this year is known as Project Melody, who got herself into quite a lot of trouble this year thanks to her streaming adult content that I cannot show in this video because I will get demonetized. That was at a time where there's an ongoing debate between VTubers and how these virtual characters are taking over the adult streaming landscape. That was back in February, and in retrospect, a lot of the real adult workers of the industry that stream adult content on the internet are totally right in saying that these things will take over the world. Still, their salt is quite enjoyable to watch. But that's not the only VTuber hoopla this year. Allow me to jump a couple of months ahead and talk about that time where they decided to suspend 2 VTubers because they recognized that Taiwan is a real country. I've talked about that hoopla and how it's really stupid that China has gotten quite the foothold in a lot of aspects of our lives. But there's more update to that story actually. In November, apparently there are news of how HoloLive China is shut down. The HoloLive China VTubers graduated, meaning that they went independent and no longer affiliated with the company. VTubers have gotten so big and so mainstream in the West that the normies are also joining in as well. It's not just the normies telling other normies that VTubers are disgusting and you're a kid fiddler if you're into that. It's also the normies that just so happen to be either VTubers or fans of VTubers that say that if you're a VTuber that literally looks like a child succubus, then you deserve to have your address being revealed to everyone. Even the English HoloLive VTubers are not free from the normies who just now comprehend about the concept of dark humor. However, none of these VTuber hooplas are about as amazing as that choosing beggar who attempts to friend an independent artist on Twitter with their status as a VTuber. I'm a VTuber and you'll regret this. Oh Man, I've seen toddlers with more intimidating grunts. There are loads of anime hooplas this year. The biggest one involves a certain annoying short-stacked college girl that normies thinks looks like a kid, which just goes to show you how the internet doesn't really care if the fictional character is canonically 18+. As long as they look like a child in their perspective, they're going to tell you that you're a predator on the internet and how you deserve to have the police being called on your butt. This discussion gets more and more ridiculous as time goes on, and Uzaki is the peak of all of that discourse last year. But the thing is, these accusations never stop. There will always be some moron on the internet accusing others for being a real-life predator because they like certain anime characters. Meanwhile, in the real world, the actual predators are the sneaky ones, the ones that will make a moralistic grandstand about how they're a great person in real life and how anyone else who consume problematic content are less of a person than them. But I dare you to get to know them better. They will stab you in the back, especially in the butt. And yet here we are, still focusing on the fictional characters and anyone who likes them. There's even an entire term for these kinds of people called antis, a term that I only recently learned. While the term is derived from anti-shippers and mostly referring to the most toxic side of shippers that will harass you over pairings of two characters that they find problematic, I'm just gonna broaden that to literally anyone who likes to make moral panics over depictions of fictional characters. Because it happens almost every week at this point, and it gets tiresome every single time. And yes, that includes you, Australian government, who makes moral panics out of mainstream animes like Sword Art Online and Eromanga Sensei, but at the same time says that Cuties is perfectly alright. No game, no life? Not okay. Cuties though, real freaking stuff. Literally. Anyway, I won't go on any further because antis being antis happen every week. Might as well rename my weekly stream Antis Being Pompous Brats. Instead, I want to talk about the anime hoopla of the year that eclipses all of the anime hooplas. It's a hoopla that every single one of you should really take notes from because it is the perfect event to highlight the fact that censorship doesn't work and will not work ever. And it does so in the most spectacularly beautiful fashion that it's almost biblical in how it happened. And that, my friend, is the banning of traps in the anime memes subreddit. The most ironic anime hoopla to have ever happened in this year. Now, I haven't been paying attention to what's going on in that subreddit right now. Maybe they unbanned them, maybe not. I just want this event to be remembered, just to bring up the point that anime fans don't like this social justice nonsense and how silly and ironic this entire thing is. So let's just talk about what happened at the time so that people can take lessons in what not to do in the future. If you're not familiar with the event, the anime memes subreddit, or the anime subreddit, decided to take one step into the social justice moralistic nonsense and ban the word trap for reasons that I think we've discussed way too many times already. Just read the reasoning and agree or disagree all you like. Whatever your thoughts on the word is, the moderators prevent any sorts of discussion on this matter, and at one point comparing this entire thing to slavery. No, really, that happened. This isn't really a good look for the subreddit. It has turned a perfectly peaceful community into a divisive war between users and moderators. What really spiraled this out of control is not just how the meaning of the word is an incredibly divisive and debatable topic, but it's because how the moderators think that one side of the argument, as in their side, is the only morally correct one, and anyone who thinks otherwise is a bigot. This isn't exactly productive, and it helps nobody through this entire thing. But that's what these people have been saying, and the ears of the moderators are still about as open as a woman's legs towards your average Boruto fan. So what ended up happening afterwards is people getting out of the subreddit to make another one called Are Good Animemes, which I decided to check out only to find out that Reddit is not a good platform in sharing anime memes because they decide to stomp on any meme involving any of the cons. So much for that. As for the original subreddit, it went into a lockdown for a while to the point where only certain people can enter it. And that, my friend, is the biggest irony of them all. The original intent for banning the word trap is so that we can include more people into the anime community. But what ended up happening is it divides the community so much to the point where inclusivity is not what they're getting. Actually, this looks like exclusivity to me. You can even say that this is gatekeeping. And these are the same people who say that gatekeeping is bad. The event of this subreddit subreddit is a perfect example in how a community can get utterly divided thanks to one person or a couple of people in power shoving their moral values to everyone. It shows how an act of gaining inclusivity definitely has some good intentions, but the problem is it was done in such a catastrophically bad manner and it only ends up doing the exact opposite of that original intention. It's like trying to build a nuclear power plant, except instead of hiring actual physicists, they hired the ballast from San Andreas. Whatever the situation in the subreddit is right now, and whatever your opinion on the word is, it doesn't dismiss the fact that this entire event could have been prevented if the moderators stopped shoving their head up their butt and actually listened to dissenting opinions on this subject matter. And frankly, I think a lot of things would have been better if all of us just stopped for a second and discussed these things like adults and stop acting like children and banning anyone who disagrees. But if you're one of those people waiting for that sort of thing to happen, you might as well wait for a unicorn to arrive in your doorstep. One angry gamer. Man, I remember a time where I used to cite you, where we talk about censorship and all of that. And I also remember a time where you too used to cite my old videos. We had a very mutual relationship. We both agreed that censorship is nonsense. We both agreed that there are many aspects about social justice that ruins pop culture and entertainment. So, what the hell happened? Well, the short version is Billy went crazy. Either that or he was already crazy and I've gotten wiser. I think the point where he realizes that I no longer ally with him is when I disagree with him in regards to Mortal Kombat 11 and the costumes and all of that. There's a point in which he cited one of my stream and made one of the weirdest rebuttals I've ever read. Ever since then, I disagree with him in so many other things. I don't just disagree with him, I actively make fun of him and all of his other takes. I did them mostly on stream and Billy is 100% welcome to hop in on stream and discuss his disagreements, but Billy is not that kind of person. Billy is the kind of person who loves to stay anonymous, which is totally understandable, especially if you're making the kind of comments that Billy loves to make every day. There are many takes that I can grab to highlight my point, but allow me to give you two examples from this year alone. The first one is when he made an article about me. That's right, he made an article about me when I got copy strike by Naughty Dog for using a meme from The Last of Us 2, something that they love to copy strike people left and right, including towards themselves, and causing some of my meme stream episodes to be left on the Twitch limbo forever. I don't know why Billy would go on his way to make an entire article about me being banned, other than for him to dance on my grave going, "Ha ha, I told you that you shouldn't trust Sony and these SJWs. Who the hell says that I did, Billy? Did you just encounter me from a parallel universe where I praise Sony for censoring anime games? Or are you just gonna continue making mental gymnastics and why I deserve to be censored merely because I disagree with you on a lot of topics? I don't even break the 100k subscriber mark, and yet somehow I'm worthy of a news article." Anyway, let's get into the content because, whew, it's quite the doozy. This is a May 7, 2020 article, and Billy decides to use my old avatar with my really old outfit. That's what happens when you Google search me instead of actually visiting my channel and find out that I've been making some visual changes lately, but I digress. So Billy made this article talking about me and how I got mammed by The Last of Us 2. He began by saying that I am constantly making excuses for and justifying media convergence in an industry dulled out by social justice. Okay, can I stop you right there, Billy? When have I ever done that? I'm actually very critical of the media, especially when they decide to shove morals up my throat. But because I disagree with him at some points last year, that means that I am not an ally to him, and therefore I am justifying censorship, I guess. He then went on to recap what happened when I got striked by Naughty Dog, but after that recap, he made this really insane statement.
"Unfortunately, the sad reality is people like appabend are still the centrist fence-sitters that continue to align with the flawed logic that anti-SJWs are just as bad as SJWs."
Oh wow, Billy, black and white morality. My side is always correct and the other side is always wrong. You just made false claims about me with zero citation on the first paragraph. You did exactly what a lot of journalists did to a lot of people this year and so many years before, and you're telling me that your site is not as bad. Here's the truth that you all need to accept, right? Both sides consist of human beings, and they're capable of making stupid claims and stupid mistakes, some of which I criticize and make fun of, and one of which includes yours, several of which includes yours. Just because your side says that it's anti-something bad doesn't mean that every single one of the people in that side are good. I thought we learned this lesson when you criticized that group that claims to be anti-fascist when they're not. Also, very nice of you to lump me alongside the same people who opened the floodgates for companies like Sony that censor video games when I've been criticizing them about this very same thing for years, and you cited my videos talking about this topic. Did you just selectively forgot about them for the purpose of pushing a narrative? You totally misrepresented me in this paragraph and gave people the impression that I am siding with the censorship people when I am not. People being misrepresented in articles. Why does that sound familiar? Here's an example of the kind of black and white morality that Billy and his fans foster. You cited a tweet that I made. It's me saying how past me wouldn't call me an SJW. Which, in my opinion, is true. In fact, this year, I did a bit of a retrospective and went back to my old videos twice, and I still agree with most of the things that I said. My biggest issue in my older videos is with my presentation. It's not very good. After that, I said that I've been consuming less political or anti-SJW content and more gaming and tech content, and how past me would be fine with that to the point where we get along very well. That is also true. I don't see anything wrong with this statement. But then this dumbass came into the fray and said, "Congratulations, your brainwashing is complete." I'm sorry, what brainwashing? God forbid that I watch content that I enjoy and not watch content that I don't. God forbid that I stay out of political topics to make sure that my brain isn't as melted as yours. And like I said, I still would agree with past me for the most part. I just think that my delivery is cringe. How am I brainwashed if I would agree with past me? They then say, don't complain one day when they walk over you and censor or remove or deplatform you or stuff you like, assuming that you would be able to realize that all then. Probably not. What the hell are you even talking about? I've complained about censorship for years. I've complained about Sony's censorship for years. And apparently doing so means that I deserve to get censored too. And that's what Billy thinks of me. I disagree with him on certain stuff, and therefore I deserve to get censored. I deserve to have an article where you dance on my grave and celebrate a moment where I, someone who complained about censorship for years, got censored by a big company that I frequently complain about. According to him, I deserve to have people dancing on my grave because I dare to disagree with them on the internet for specific moments that you haven't even elaborated, and you wonder why people say that you're just as bad as them. The absolute climax of this entire thing is when Billy decides to make a list of all the traitors of America. And by traitors of America, I mean people who disagree with him on specific topics on the internet. I was actually not on the list because I did not say pro-BLM stuff on Twitter, which is apparently the easiest way for you to be on the list alongside making fun of him. I am an honorary traitor though. I mean, I got an entire article made about me, while these people only got themselves on the list. So even with our disagreements, I'm still a good American boy. Or at least that's what Twitter tells me when the election happens. Fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your perspective, his regime of bad takes has come to an end. One Angry Gamer, the website, is pretty much rebooted and relaunched into something else. It relaunched into a standard gaming website, but instead of doing the usual hot takes that Billy loves to do, the website chills on a freaking gambling website. No, really. It did. So the website has turned from making really stupid hot takes that everyone makes fun of into an actually dangerous website where you can get scammed out of thousands of dollars if you're not careful. I might be a filthy centrist, but at least I don't try to sell a gambling website. So that's all the things that I want to talk about in this year. I certainly have missed quite a lot of stuff, but this video is already pretty long. It's pretty much evident that 2020 is the year that people want to just desperately forget. While there are loads of good stuff in there, the bad stuff in it are so immense that it actually affected people's lives. So I do not blame people for dumping 2020 into the nearest bin so that it can be thrown off into other awful years. As for me, well, my real life stuff has been okay for the most part, especially thanks to the fact that I'm pretty much free from college. My channel, on the other hand, hasn't been doing very well. The views are going down, the subscribers are down. I expect that it's going to continue to go down in the future to the point where I just don't look at my stats or even the comments anymore. That being said, I actually have a lot more fun making content than I do usually. A lot of it is thanks to me branching out from the typical content that I used to make, which is hooplas and dramas and all of that, into reviews and talking about things that I genuinely love. I especially enjoyed making my Katawa Shoujo video. It's such a beautiful video that articulates everything that I love about that game. Then there's the Nier Automata video that I also love, and a game that I still find people talking about and reference even to this day. And of course the Trails video. It's a game series that pretty much consumed months of my life, and I cannot wait for its eventual end game next year on the PC. Aside from that, I've been trying to find out new hobbies. I decided to expand my music knowledge a lot further and learn how to make music. Thanks to the help of a MIDI cable and a keyboard so old it still has a floppy disk drive, I can create loads and loads of music that I want that are admittedly of questionable quality. I even ended up playing some on the chat at one point on the stream. I don't play them well, but it's still very fun nonetheless. At the end of the day, my channel isn't about the stats or the views or chasing whatever trends that are happening right now. My channel is about having fun. Sometimes that fun coincides with a trend, but it's still about having fun nonetheless. Talking about video games that I love or films that I love is a lot of fun. Making music is a lot of fun, especially if they're going to be used a lot in my channel. There are hooplas that are fun to talk about, but nowadays the usual hooplas that I talk about are reserved for my streams because they're more fun to discuss there. Reminder, meme stream final episode today at 6 PM Eastern time. Anyway, this video has gone too long already. Before I conclude this, I want to thank everyone who has been supporting me. Thank you for watching my videos and sticking to me even after all this time. Thank you for the fan arts as well. They're all amazing. I have the most talented fans and viewers. Thank you so much for the donations as well. PayPal, Patreon, Streamlabs, wherever it is. The donations have been insane lately, and I cannot thank you all enough. It's enough to pay my bills. It's enough for me to live in general. So here's to 2021, where things are more likely to get worse. And by the time that happens, I'm just gonna quote Bruce Lee. Do not pray for an easy life, pray for the strength to endure a difficult one.